Hello and welcome back to Culz Book Reviews. This week we are checking out An Authentic Life of Billy the Kid, the Noted Desperado of the Southwest by Pat Garrett. So today you can find this though titled as The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid by Pat Garrett. So I guess they just kind of brought up the title to date. So even though this is credited to Pat Garrett, it did have a ghostwriter, and that being his friend Marshall Ash Upson, and he helped ghostwrite it. Towards the end, it does kind of go into, I guess, more of almost a journal-esque writing by Garrett. At least that's the style that it seemed like towards the end. Now, one may ask, why do we have it sitting upon the other Billy the Kid books? A lot of these, which you know we have done reviews on, and or will be reviewing hopefully here in the near future. Well, we decided to set it up this way because really, all of these books are built upon this one. And while, yes, this book might be quite a bit outdated at this time, and or a lot of historians find embellishments or inaccuracies throughout the book, it really is the history we have of Billy the Kid for the majority of what we really do know of Billy the Kid. I mean, a lot of the things that you think of Billy the Kid as far as when he escaped, you know, what the guards treated him like, maybe the legend of him killing 23 men by the time he was 21, comes from this book. I'm not saying a lot of it is accurate still today, and with a lot more research, such as what we saw in the Billy the Kid, The Endless Ride, we do know a lot more now about Billy and maybe who Billy was compared to when Pat was trying to write it. So this book really is Pat's way of trying to, I guess, justify why he ended up shooting Billy the Kid. A lot of people at a point in time had turned on Pat, and so he wanted to really get his story out there that he didn't shoot him from behind until what really, I guess, happened in Pat's words, what happened that night, as well as try to get Billy's story out there and tell what he thought was the correct version of Billy's life. Now, if we do go in inaccuracies, you can even just look at the escape from the Lincoln jail when Billy killed J.W. Bell and Bob Ollinger. And when he killed Bell, now obviously we know he killed him at the top of the stairs. In the book it says he was about 12 steps down from Billy. And today a lot of historians obviously don't believe that because they have found, I guess, blood traces at the top of the stairs. So that is one thing that Pat, wrote in the book that today we now know not quite historically accurate. There's also the part where he had run up, hit the door, and got the gun that way. A lot of historians now believe that Billy actually got the gun from perhaps the outhouse or just from, J.W. Bell himself, even though there's some accounts of Bell, after he had died, people said his gun was still in his holster, so perhaps there was a gun in the outhouse. It's definitely something that we see time and again, kind of the same but kind of different when we watch the movies. Which, speaking of movies, we will have the top 10 Billy performances coming up shortly, so stay tuned for our channel for that one. We promise you guys will enjoy that. We had a lot of fun. We did have to watch a ton of Billy stuff, but it was interesting. It's really interesting too because having read this book now, you kind of see where some of those influences came from, be it from the older movies or even some of the newer movies that perhaps are new but aren't quite 100% authentic, or at least maybe they just try to take it all from this book. Another interesting aspect of the Lincoln escape is when he shoots Ollinger, he doesn't say hello Bob like you hear in every single documentary. I swear, like every documentary now, you hear at least 3 or 4 times, hello Bob, hello Bob, hello Bob, hello Bob. And then they show him shooting him. In here, he doesn't say that. And I was like, whoa, that's kind of strange. Also, there's some extra wording that you don't necessarily see in today's tellings. As far as like after Beaudry or O'Folliard were shot, there's quite a bit more words or dialogue exchanged between O'Folliard and Beaudry to Garrett. Compared to, I guess, what you see in today's literature that's written about Billy. Now, to be completely fair and honest, I do want to say, considering it is written by Pat Garrett, it's almost more fair towards Billy than what I had imagined in my head pre-reading this. Pre-reading this, I definitely thought Pat was going to make him out to be a stone cold killer, but for a lot of it, he does say that Billy had a really good sense of humor. He was really kind to those who knew him. He does say he had a fast temper. He does say he killed a lot more people than nowadays people credit him for. But yeah, it does, for Garrett's part of the story, it does, really give Billy maybe a fairer take than I was expecting. Another thing is the ending, how Billy was killed. And this is something we talked about in the Billy the Kid and Autobiography, obviously, because that one talks about, did he escape? Did he become Brushy Bill? We also talked about it in the Billy the Kid as he was portrayed in newspapers of the 1870s and 1880s. But the ending, Garrett's writing it, he could make up whatever he wanted. He could 100% say there was a big old gunfight, he was shooting out, there was Billy shot multiple times, had multiple guns, it was this blaze of glory. But he didn't. He wrote that, Billy came in, was asking Kenneth, was walking in the dark and maybe did notice Pat, and Pat, knew he had to shoot or he was going to die. Because there was that exchange earlier where Billy did say if he came, he better come a shooting. And so on Pat's part there, if he wanted to make up a story, he definitely could have made up something that was a lot more grandiose and definitely painted a much more, romanticized version of the story. Why I brought up the Billy the Kid as he was portrayed in the 1870s and 80s was they actually, in the newspapers of the day, were questioning maybe he wasn't shot in Pete's room, but rather Paulita's room, like perhaps Pat and the other deputies had tied up Paulita, and when Billy had gone into the room, they shot him. And for the sake of the Maxwell's reputations, they just kind of switched it around and said he was killed in the, bedroom next to the fireplace and stuff like that. But like I said, if he wanted to, he could have easily made up the ending to be this grandiose gunfight. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, there's so many inaccuracies in the beginning that, it leads to the credence that he got away, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think so. The part where it does say that, J.W. Bell was killed by Billy, he does put this as kind of what people think happened. He doesn't come out outright and say this is for 100% sure what happened. But he says it's kind of up in the air, but this is kind of the group consensus of what happened that day. And since he wasn't there, a lot of the times people say he was out getting taxes or maybe wood for the gallows. I'm more on the side he was out getting taxes. He wasn't there to see what happened, so it's really educated guess. Now, the beginning of the story, there's a lot of parts that you're like, is this true? It reads like a novel of that day, like a dime store novel in a way. And so a lot of the beginning parts, you're like, maybe that's true. Especially with newer research, you're like, I don't know if it's true now. So, that's definitely one of the interesting things, is just trying to wade through and see, did he escape from the Native Americans and climb up and hide in the mountains? There are stories about that. But, was he super bloodthirsty? There's also stories that make it sound like he wasn't. So, it's an interesting read if you guys want to really see where a lot of the Billy the Kid mythology and story came from. It all started here, guys, and that's why we put it, on top of the other books, because those books are built upon this one. This is where everything trickles down from, And so we had to check it out. We had to look at it. We had to dig into it. We had to take notes. Because as we try to get closer and closer to our documentary and trying to present the story that we best feel presents the true history of Billy the Kid, we had to look at it. You can't go around the Billy the Kid history without taking a look. And so that's why we did take a look at it. For those of you that are wondering, this is a little bit different of a copy. You can get it off Amazon for like $10. But I saw this on Facebook and I couldn't help myself and I had to get it. So it's from Easton Press. So they are a company that, takes different books and makes these really nice collector editions. And when I saw this, I was like, heck yeah, I gotta pick that up. Look at the artwork. That's the original artwork from the original book. As far as once we take it out, we will take a deeper look into the book. But I just want to explain, why we have the book here, what copy it is. But like I said, let's dig into the book. Alright, so we are going to take a more in-depth look at the edition itself. Because it is that special edition from Easton Press. I didn't know, because this was my first time getting anything from them, so I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I gotta say, I'm super pleased with the product that I have received here. Now, right off the bat, it is going to be a little bit more than you will pay on Amazon, I will tell you that. On Amazon, you can get the regular paperback copy for like $10. This one, you can get either $156 or the 4 installments are $39. So yeah, it's not cheap, but it is really cool to have this really special edition of a really, historic myth-making book, I guess. So on the cover, you can see it says, "An Authentic Life of Billy the Kid, the Noted Desperado of the Southwest." And then just a etching of the Billy the Kid tintype. Because obviously at that time, that was the only picture that anyone knew about. Or at least the only authenticated. I mean, maybe people did know about the other pictures, but it's really the only one. And still, it's really the only 100% authenticated Billy the Kid picture. Alright, so this one is bound in genuine leather. I mean, it definitely has that. And it does have this nice little case. Keep it protected, as you can see. Nothing on the inside or outside. Like I said, it is leather, just orange on the back, and the front is the original book cover. Just really nice engraved in there. And then if you look at the spine, it looks really, really nice. It says The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid, which obviously it's known as now, by Pat F. Garrett. Just a really nice, has some nice little ridges where you can see it was bound. Does include some 22 karat gold accents, guys. Pretty sweet, right? But it does include, the vintage art. Not too many. But it is nice. If you see the... Look at that. So shiny because of the gold. But it does open up. Got this nice little design here. The first drawing we will see is that tintype of Billy the Kid. Obviously, that's really all we had for a super long time. The last end. And this is 137 pages long. I know other copies are longer, other copies have notes or tell you what was wrong with what he told or what was the inaccuracies, embellishments. But as far as I know, this is, just a pure copy of the original book. And so it does include the pictures, like I said, the different artwork, and this is obviously when Pat shot Billy. Does seem a little bit more going on than what we think now, right? But still, it's super subdued. Has more than just these two, but these are two probably the most well-known ones, I would say. This is when Billy shot Bob. Obviously, that's not what the Lincoln County Courthouse looked like, so it's kind of weird that they made it look like that, but it also includes like this bookmark here, so which was really nice. I do use Goodreads, so I really haven't used bookmarks in a long time. I just, finish reading and type in what page I'm at anyway. But it was nice to have at least, and it's always cool to see your progress. I don't know if I have a super, interesting part. Perhaps this section here where, Pat captures Billy for the first time after killing O'Folliard and killing Beaudry. With what Beaudry said at the end, definitely doesn't sound exactly what we think now happened. It does seem like maybe a little embellished. Maybe, Garrett wanted to make himself seem a little bit better. But, it's just interesting to see that, yeah, cooking a little bit, finally drew out the kid and stuff like that, because they knew at that point the escape horse had been shot right in the doorway. They couldn't get to the other ones. Pat shot, the rope, so they were running loose pretty much. Beaudry was dead. They were trapped inside this one exit-only building. And then Garrett and the guys just cooked because they were hungry, and that finally drew out the kid. Pretty interesting. But I just really wanted to take a more in-depth look because this is such a cool edition. It's one of my favorite books, honestly. Just so cool. And like it does say 1882. As you can see how it compares to the others. It's really fascinating and super cool that, it comes with a little slipcase. So, while it is a little bit more money than I would have wanted to spend, I'd say it was worth it. So what would I rate this? This is hard because if you're looking at the authenticity part of it, it would probably be lower. If you look at how it's written, probably lower. Obviously, some of the words they use and what they meant then doesn't, it's not what it means now. And sometimes it can be a bit dry and maybe written more like a notebook or a journal. So it's not quite written as nicely as some of the other books we've checked out. But I mean, it's going to be hard to rate it below a 6. Even if it's not authentic. I mean, a lot of the stuff is based off of it, and it's that piece of history. So I mean, 6 at the lowest. If I'm feeling generous, and at times, I would say I was feeling generous, I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10, to be fair. And I'm not judging the copy, because the edition is really super cool. The edition is one of my favorite books I have. But this is just judging the story and all that. So probably about a 7 out of 10. Definitely not as high as our other Billy the Kid books. But it's hard to rate it super low, even with its errors and, all its inaccuracies that it might have. It still is really what shaped the history of Billy the Kid, the mythology of Billy the Kid, I should say. And so that's why I'll give it the 7 out of 10. Alright guys, so if you enjoyed this and want to see more, like I said, we got that top 10 Billy the Kid performances coming up. A ton more Billy the Kid stuff leading up to our documentary. But if you want to stay tuned to that, make sure you hit that like and give us a subscribe. If you want to see more Culz book reviews, click that link on your left. And if you want to see more of what we do here at the channel, click that link on your right. And let us know. We have 2 questions. First, have you read The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid? And how well do you think it still stacks up? And 2, have you checked out this edition by Easton Press or any of their other editions? Let us know in the comments below.